Richard!
Thank you, Damon. Yeah, it is. That's nice. Okay, so the question we're looking at is how do the authors of Black Diggers and Longest Memory explore the idea of identity? So the key words that we need to focus on are how, because we can't just say that they explore the idea of identity. A mid-range response with this will go, oh, well, they explore the idea of identity by, Whitechapel feeling like he has no name or whatever, but they won't talk about how in terms of text construction. A high range response will go, it's got how do they do it, so it wants me to talk about text construction. It wants to talk about how is this text put together to say these things. So, which is pretty easy. So how do authors of Black Diggers and Longest Memory explore the idea of identity? So obviously the word identity is important, and when it says the idea of identity, it's hinting to the fact that some people feel that they have no sense of identity. So it's not saying that they feel a sense of identity. Some people don't feel a sense of identity. People like Whitechapel, people like Nigel. They don't feel a sense of identity, and that's what's important. So, let's talk about it. Let's see if we can come up with some ways, and there are lots of ways in this question, so that's exciting. There's loads that we can say. So, what is one way that that these texts kind of talk about identity? Yep.
Perspective.
Good, yeah, so multiple perspectives. Yep. Multiple perspectives. So, Damon, when you say multiple perspectives, what would you particularly talk about?
Or you could talk about how the texts aren't solely based on first person view.
Good, okay. So,
we hear first person from essentially all the...
Good. In the Longest Memory, yeah.
Yeah. But in Black Diggers as well, we still have those thoughts,
we have a focus on particular characters, yeah. The scene will revolve around a particular character and his feelings, yeah. Gives first or second person of all major characters. Yeah. So Damon's suggestion has been the Longest Memory gives first or second person perspective, I should use that word, of all major characters. How does that help us understand identity? Brianna, please don't talk. Good, we connect how they feel about themselves and about their identity. Helps audience connect with their sense of identity. Good. I would say particularly in that one I would talk about Whitechapel. Yeah? And maybe Mr. Whitechapel. The scene where he talks about where he goes to the gentleman's club and how he feels like his identity is questioned and his standing is questioned. And then he gets to the end of it and he says that, what does he say? My name is restored to me. And so he feels like he regains his sense of identity. I think that would be good because you kind of not just leaning on major ones like Whitechapel, but you're also talking about kind of more complex ones like Mr. Whitechapel. Yeah? Yeah.
Talking about names, could you talk about how names gives the person an identity?
Did you just hear Libby? Because she's smarter than you, so you got to listen. So, she said, could we talk about names, miss? Could we talk about names? Names are definitely used in this text to explore the idea of identity. Definitely. I'll just finish this one. Gentlemen's Club. I'll come back to finishing this one just so that we can jot down your thought. Why I no copy? There we go. Okay, so we're going to go with use of names. Now, with this SAC, the great thing about this SAC is you have 90 minutes to complete. It's not an hour like it will be on the exam. It's a 90-minute, which means you can actually smash out quite a lot. You can get quite a lot done. Yeah, you can do a decent plan in 90 minutes. I would probably, in the SAC, I would spend probably 10 minutes planning. I know, which Dina's like, what? I'm not wasting all that time planning. But I think you actually have the luxury of taking 10 minutes to plan in this one. I wouldn't probably spend any more than 10 minutes planning, but I probably would spend 10 minutes planning because I could do this and actually jot down the evidence that I wanted to use and just really kind of refine my idea before I started writing, because I have the luxury of time. In the exam, it will be 5 minutes, get it done, move on.
What? I spent like 15 minutes.
Yeah, you can't.
Is that bad?
Yes.
What if like you use elements of your plan?
You literally have an hour to write in the exam for each section. You spend 15 minutes planning, you have 45 minutes to write, and then you take away 5 minutes to proofread.
You copy what you wrote in your plan.
Yeah, you're copying. Just write it in the actual thing. This is, you know why you have to do 15 minutes of planning, Damon? Because you haven't done enough prep.
It takes long to read over it.
Not enough. Yeah. Lachlan? No. Gross joke. Gross joke. I did not say that.
Lachlan, my girlfriend's in the
Make sure that
I never said that. You said that. Well, we do have an early learning centre now, that's cute. Alright. Hang on, use of names. So, I just want to go back a step and go back to multiple perspectives. So, thank you. I want to go back a step to multiple perspectives. So we know what we're going to do in the longest memory. We're going to talk about first and second person narration. But what about Black Diggers? Because we don't necessarily have narrators. How are you going to talk about multiple perspectives?
how it jumps between different characters.
Okay, so
But one character being the focus person, and like how they jump around, so it's like they're very separate. How very few of them cross over too.
good, yeah. Vignettes. You should know that word.
Oopsies, I knew it, but I didn't read it.
Good. I was going to say, I'm like, you should know that word. That word is like a media word.
I only know it because of Instagram.
Yeah, and you use it, so like when people like flat lay stuff, they do vignettes. So you have like 1, 2, 3. That's a vignette. Multiple vignettes of soldiers' experiences. All right. Hang on. And times they were. Alright. So, use of names. I'll just wait. Stevie, I want you to do some thinking. Use of names. How does use of names explore the idea of identity? Let's go with longest memory. Where do we see use of names being used in the longest memory to explore identity? I don't think Stevie knows I'm talking to him.
By what?
Stevie, I'm talking to you.
I didn't think so.
You ready, Stevie?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the longest memory, how are names used to explore identity? Good. Because speaking is very important. It's a big way of how people learn. So I want you to say it. Good.
Yeah, I've only got importance of names.
Okay, so talk to me about it. Where do we see the importance of names? You don't want to talk about it? Okay. Well, let Morgan help.
So in this section, could we
Hang on, we'll just wait until everyone's listening. Thank you.
in this section could we discuss how Whitechapel is named after
Yeah,
the slave owner of Whitechapel?
good.
And also about
So he has no identity of self.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
been given it.
Yeah.
And how like other slaves are bestowed like a title like cook or something else but not given a name.
Good. Thus, he has no identity of his own. Other slaves named by occupation. No identity outside slavery. Anything else you want to add? Yes?
That could you take it like a step further and say that the fact that they don't have any like the fact that they have to be given names and like how those people that give them names have power over them is why they lack identity, and that's done through like people sharing names. So like people who give names to other people have power over them.
Do you guys know the word agency? Not necessarily,
Yes.
not like, no, not like that.
Like a
So-
freedom of thought.
Yeah, so like agency, so for instance, you guys are getting more and more agency over your own life, more control over your own lives. So, yeah, like the fact that they have to be given a name shows that they lack any sort of agency over their own lives. You know, like where they don't even get to decide what they're called. They have to be told what they'll be called.
Well, we didn't get a choice.
No, but it was the choice of your parents. You know, whereas
Well, they have that role
Chapel
of-
is named by, you know, his slave owners. Whitechapel is named by his slave owners. Cook is named by his slave owners. Not, you know, it's not like it's a gift kind of bestowed by your parents that they make the choice for you.
Could you even talk about like the white people as well, like any of the white community, like Sanders Jr. and Mr. Whitechapel, how they're kind of bound by their fathers?
Yeah.
Is this where you talk about like how even black people's Aboriginals have names and white people don't? Is that authority's head or something? Yeah?
Yes. Shh. Don't worry about cars for 27,000. Focus on what we're doing right now, because if you do not pass year 12, it is very sure that your parents will never buy you a car. Ever.
But yeah, Como, you think I'm joking?
Hey, if I was back in your day, if someone bought me a VL, I would have been wrapped. I end up driving a Ford Meteor.
Hey, do you want to see my VP outside?
No,
This? We'll do skits.
I'm good, thank you.
Come for a ride with me.
I would never get in a car with you, Lachlan.
What if I let you drive it?
Is it a manual?
I don't know. Probably not.
Okay. If it's an auto, I can drive it, but I won't drive a manual. I'm a terrible manual driver. In Black Diggers, right, what am I saying? Right, gives the Aboriginal characters a sense of identity that
I'm just crying after my last thing. I won't get it HR from my brothers and then he'll give me shit about it for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah, from my brother.
So, alright. We ready? Last but not least, I need one more way. I'll just wait. Sorry, thank you. I need one more way that we explore identity in these texts. Laura.
Through the use of background, I don't know how to phrase it, but background information. So kind of like stolen generation and the fact that we know that people in, like the stolen generation in Black Diggers and how that affects their sense of identity and the fact that they lost it. So Tommy, he had many names, how he lost the one that his mum gave him because obviously he was taken away from her and put onto a camp. So this kind of implied knowledge, and for this memory, it's like dreaming of Africa. So like that intense want to go back to somewhere and you can't go because of like
So the socio-historical contexts that the stories are built on. Ooh, that's an interesting paragraph. They would love that. Because examiners froth over something that's like a little left of centre. And luckily, Laura is about as left of centre as you get. So it's my way of saying you're odd, mate, but I don't mind. But it works in your favour, so it's all right.
Yeah, but I can't write them, so it's basically the same as not writing the paragraph.
You can write this. You just suggested it.
Yeah, I know, but writing it well is another thing entirely.
Stolen generation symbolized by... It's yimbolized. The old yimbolization.
Should have picked those up.
Yeah. Saxophone lessons really paying off today. Symbolized by Nigel's adoption and his relationship with the taxi. Oh, because look! Oh my gosh, everything goes full circle, Illuminati. So, we ready? Pay attention. I'm going to do something clever. So, the socio-historical context is another way, so the kind of pretext that we all kind of go into these stories with. So, for instance, with Black Diggers, it's stolen generation, right? That we read these stories and we go, oh, yes, Aboriginal people, stolen generation. We know that, okay? Because the intended audience for Black Diggers is Australians. It was written for Australians. It was written by Australians for Australians, for Australian consumption, right? It wasn't written for people in Greenland to read. It wasn't written for them because they wouldn't have that context because nobody other than Australians really knows about stolen generation. Longest Memory is built on this socio-historical context that we all know about African-American slavery, right? It's built on that whole, like, you know what slavery is, you understand the basis of slavery. So, now we come into something really clever. So we're going to talk about, in this paragraph, the stolen generation, and that's symbolized by Nigel's adoption. Yeah, that he is stolen, he is taken away, right? That it's like Nigel's adoption is all supposed to be like a symbol of Aboriginal stolen generation, right? That babies are taken away from their mothers, right? And then it kind of ties back to what we were just talking about paternalism. Yeah? Because Nigel and the taxidermist, that is supposed to be a symbol of Australia's relationship with Aboriginal people. That we are these paternal benefactors that have to be kind of eternally grateful. Does that make sense? Because you know how at the end he's like, sorry, Dad. He feels like he has to be eternally grateful for what Australia has given him. His father has given him. Does that make sense? Which impacts his identity. It strips him of his Aboriginal identity and gives him a white identity that he can't identify with because he ain't white. And he isn't treated like that. Oh. Thanks, Lance. Yes?
Did you also say that the same about the use of names, so that has to do with paternalism?
Yeah, it does. Yep, you could paternalize the crap out of this essay. Definitely.
I also wrote down like transgenerational trauma.
Of identity, and given a new white one, he can't identify. Okay. And the socio-historical context is for longest memory is slavery. And that I would talk about that dream of Africa. Yeah? That they were stripped of that. Yeah.
Could you also say that to survive in their new situation that they have to forget about it?
Yeah. By the way, if anybody